On our newscast tonight, 6 economy-related government agencies give their annual policy briefings to the president. They stress the need for urgent structural reforms and innovation to revive Korea's economy. The U.S. military social media accounts were hacked by apparent backers of the Islamic State. The FBI is looking into the matter. And shopping online in Korea is about to get much more convenient as Korea allows for online payment authorization programs other than ActiveX. These stories and more coming up next. It's 6 p.m. on a Tuesday here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Daniel Choi.
And I'm Hwang Jie. Thank you for joining us.
President Park Geun-hye has underscored her commitment to economic reform by asking the economy-related ministries to be the first to give her their annual policy briefings.
Right, and the policymakers say they plan to focus on building an economy with strong fundamentals with a balance between domestic demand and exports. Lee Ji-yoon reports.
Opening a joint briefing to the president by 6 economy-related ministries and agencies, Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan stressed the importance of overhauling the public sector as the first step in revitalizing the Korean economy, stressing that 2015 is the golden time for structural reforms and innovation. Top economic policymakers laid out plans for strengthening the nation's economic fundamentals and balancing domestic demand and exports. The government plans to focus on reforms in the 4 sectors of labor, finance, the public sector, and education this year. The government said its efforts last year set the stage for implementing the president's 3-year economic reform plan, with its agencies reducing their debt by $22 billion to surpass the initial goal by about $4 billion. Seoul will keep reducing government debt, restructure pension schemes for civil servants, and push forward with other public sector overhauls in the hope of leading reforms in other sectors. For example, the Labor Ministry will promote salaries based on their performance, not seniority. The government will also devise safety net measures for temporary workers to improve working conditions. To better cater to investors in the financial sector, the government will facilitate venture capital projects and prepare an implementation plan for the second phase of reforms. Universities, for their parts, will now be focused on providing more practical education, and designated colleges will now have to match their student quotas with market demand so that students can get hired upon graduation. Lee Ji-yoon, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye also says it's the public sector that should lead reforms in the country. While receiving reports from government ministries today, she said efforts made last year to reduce the debt held by public institutions fell short of expectations. She urged officials to carry out a second phase of reforms in the new year, which involves putting the brakes on illegal subsidies. To help Koreans actually feel the effects of her economic plans, President Park called on the ministries to work together and generate a synergy effect amongst themselves. The United States says it welcomes President Park Geun-hye's efforts to improve relations with North Korea, including an offer to hold a summit without any preconditions. During a daily press briefing on Monday local time, State Department Deputy Spokesperson Marie Harf also urged the North to act in kind. This follows President Park's New Year's press conference, in which she said she was open to meeting with the North Korean leader with no strings attached if it could open up the road to reunification. But Korea's main opposition party has sharply criticized President Park Geun-hye's New Year's press conference, especially her economic and welfare initiatives. The interim leader of the New Politics Alliance for Democracy, Moon Hee-sang, said this morning that the government's current policy direction cannot improve the livelihoods of the people who are suffering from mounting household debt. Moon stressed that the administration's reform drive drives are not enough to resolve the problems facing the economy. The opposition chief also called for a reshuffle of the presidential office and more proactive measures when it comes to inter-Korean relations.
Over in the U.S., key social media accounts of that country's military command were briefly shut down following a cyber attack by apparent sympathizers of the Islamic State group. The FBI has launched an investigation into the case, which U.S. officials have called an act of cyber vandalism. Our Hwang Sung-hee reports.
The U.S. Central Command's Twitter and YouTube accounts were hacked by a group claiming to be supporters of Islamic State militants. The command acknowledged that its social media accounts had been compromised and called it an act of cyber vandalism, although it added there had been no operational impact. Pro-Islamic State messages were plastered over the command's Twitter page. A profile picture showed a figure in a black and white headscarf with the text, "I love you, ISIS." One post read, "American soldiers, we're coming, watch your back." Other posts included the names and contact information of members of the U.S. military, as well as PowerPoint slides and maps. Its YouTube page was also hacked, with 2 video uploads appearing to be linked to the Islamic State. The command focuses on countries in the Middle East, and this hack comes as the U.S. and its coalition partners have been launching airstrikes on Islamic State forces in Iraq and Syria. The FBI is investigating the case, and the White House is also looking into the matter.
I can tell you this is something that we're obviously looking into and something that we take seriously.
And coincidence it may be, but the hack happened as President Barack Obama was announcing new proposals aimed at bolstering cybersecurity. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, South Korea and the United States went ahead with a 2-day naval drill earlier this Tuesday. Its first combined exercise since rejecting a proposal from North Korea asking for an end to such drills. Our Kim Yeon-bin reports.
2 U.S. Aegis destroyers, including the 9,200-ton USS Mustin, are currently in the East Sea for a series of drills conducted in sync with South Korea's 3,200-ton Aegis destroyer, Kwanggeto the Great. The vessels are here for an annual 2-day joint naval drill to enhance military readiness between the two countries. This year's exercises are the first after Seoul and Washington flatly rejected a proposal from North Korea for an end to the training drills in exchange for a temporary halt to the North's nuclear tests. Pyongyang characterizes the drills as a rehearsal for a northward invasion. The allies have vowed to continue the exercises, saying they are defensive in nature. Also on Tuesday, North Korea said it will press ahead with its policy of simultaneously pursuing nuclear and economic development, despite Seoul and Washington's attempts to end its nuclear programs. The North Nodong Shinmun newspaper on Tuesday said that Pyongyang would stick to its military-first policy and dual-line policy to the very end, while continuing to develop its nuclear capabilities. Prior to this, inter-Korean relations has seemed to be on the right track, as the leaders of both Koreas emphasized the importance of the inter-Korean ties in their New Year's speeches. South Korean President Park Geun-hye on Monday reached out to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, offering an unconditional summit and marking a rare exchange of optimism on the divided Korean peninsula. Kim Yeon-bin, Arirang News.
North Korea is believed to have recently changed the frequency band for its state television to broadcast in HD quality. The North halted the frequency band that only allowed broadcasting in standard definition quality last weekend, and now is transmitting broadcast through a band that also allows HD quality. The frequency range has changed, but broadcasts are still being transmitted using SD signals. Experts say North Korea is probably testing HD broadcasting. Pyongyang is believed to have started digital broadcasting back in the year 2012.
Korea's export prices dropped to a 7-year low last year due to falling global oil prices and a strengthening Korean won. The Bank of Korea says export prices went down 6% in 2014 from the previous year. A fall in export prices means exporters earn that much less when shipping out the same amount of products. But last year, import prices fell by a bigger margin than export prices, giving local exporters some leeway. Import prices dropped 7.5% last year from 2013. Aside from the odd IPO here and there by some big-name companies, major headlines from the Korean stock market were few and far between last year. But many market watchers think it will be a different story this year. For more on how prices could move and what investors should look out for, here's our Song Ji-sun.
2014 was a lackluster year for the Korean stock market. The benchmark Kospi index closed the year at 1915, 100 points lower than it started, a year after being trapped in the 200-point range and below the 2,100-point barrier. This year, with the country's economic recovery picking up pace, market analysts expect the Kospi to break out of this pattern and top 2,200, most probably in third or fourth quarter. Among the main factors setting the tone for the market were the Fed's decision to raise its key interest rate and the performance of Samsung Electronics, which accounts for 14% of the overall market capitalization. Many analysts believe the Fed's rate hike will have a limited impact on the bourse, but the big question about Samsung is whether it can shore up its poor smart performance from the third quarter of last year.
We're expecting a low of 1870 and a high of 2260. There could be some adjustments in the first half on rate changes in the U.S., but the stock market will rise at a moderate rate in the second half.
One main theme for the market this year will be dividend payments. Last year, big-name IPOs took center stage, partly due to the listing of Tail Industries, the de facto holding company of the Samsung Group, and its affiliate Samsung SDS. But the number of companies seeking IPOs will drop by half to around 30 this year. Among them are low-cost airlines Jeju Air and Air Busan, and Hyundai Group's advertising arm, Innocean. The focus this year will be on how shareholders benefit from a government policy on increasing dividend payments. Policymakers have voiced concerns that too many companies are stocking away too much money for reserves and that Korea's dividend payout ratio is lower than that of emerging or developed markets.
We will seek to increase the influence of shareholders in deciding dividend plans to make them more reasonable and help institutional investors to become more involved in the process.
Now, another point to look out for in 2015 is whether the Korean market can be included in the developed market category on the MSCI index, which is an important factor when global fund managers draw up their investment portfolios. Korea has been regarded as an emerging market, largely because of its currency's limited convertibility and limits on foreign investors' ability to trade in securities. The question of whether Seoul has made progress on improving investment conditions will be decided in June. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Microsoft has enjoyed a virtual monopoly in online shopping in Korea for more than 2 decades, but in about 2 months' time, that's all about to change. Financial regulators said on Tuesday that starting as early as March, shoppers trying to buy things off Korean websites will no longer have to deal with the little box asking them to install a Microsoft security program. Our Connie Kim has this report.
Many would say it's been a long time coming, but online shoppers in Korea will soon be able to get things much more easily. For starters, the government will no longer require shoppers to install a Microsoft-developed authentication program just to buy something online, under a plan to be introduced as early as March. The ActiveX plugin, which only works on Internet Explorer, has been a must-have for shoppers, making a purchase of over 300,000 won, roughly $275. The system was first implemented in 1999 to ensure safe online payments, but was often criticized for being slow and having poor web compatibility, limiting access to online shopping. Under proposed changes, it'll make online transaction procedures much simpler and let shoppers using other internet browsers, such as Firefox, Chrome, or Safari. The clunky online shopping requirement in Korea was even pointed out by President Park Geun-hye herself during her New Year's press conference on Monday.
ActiveX와 같은 이런 낡은 규제에 안주한 결과 국내 소비자의 해외 직구는 폭발적으로 느는데 해외 소비자의 국내 역직구는 걸음마 수준입니다.
With ActiveX on the way out and shoppers having an easier time buying things from Korea-based websites, Korean online retailers hope the country will start turning its e-commerce deficit around. Foreign online purchases of Korean goods are expected at $27.7 million, or 1.5% of Koreans' online purchases of foreign goods last year. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
More on making purchases and shopping. Koreans are willing to pay top dollar for some of their favorite indulgences, even if they are double, even triple the price they are in other countries. So what are the goods in question and why are they so expensive in Korea? Our Kwon So-wa has some answers.
What do coffee, wine, and cheese in Korea have in common? They are all popular imports, and they are expensive. In fact, a recent survey of 13 major countries revealed that these three products are pulling the largest amount of money out of Korean consumers' pockets. According to Consumers Korea, a Starbucks Americano costs more than 4,000 won in Korea, or roughly $3.80. You'll get the same coffee indulgence for around $2.30 at a Starbucks in the United States. But it's not all that shocking, considering that most Korean brands sell their coffee for similar prices, as coffee consumption has skyrocketed in recent years. The industry is now estimated to be worth around $5.7 billion. Another product stands out too. A bottle of Montes Alpha premium wine from Chile sells for around $39 on Korean shelves, nearly double the price in Australia. And what goes well with the beverage? Cheese. But this too comes at a high price for Koreans. The Laughing Cow, a famous processed cheese product from France, can be bought in Korea for over $4, which is very expensive compared to what the French have to pay, a mere $1.30. The list goes on. 8 out of 42 imported products were found to be the most expensive in Korea, and 11 products were ranked second most expensive. This, despite Korea's efforts to conclude numerous free trade agreements in recent years. Consumers Korea points to the country's distribution system as the reason for the high prices and says that for the general public to benefit from FTAs, the system will need a revision. Kwon So-wa, Arirang News.
Skyrocketing sales, plunging oil prices, and newly found consumer confidence in the United States means automakers are licking their lips at the thought of this year's North American International Auto Show that's about to kick off in Detroit. Dozens of new models will be getting their first public airing in what promises to be a great event in America's Motor City. Kim Ji-yeon reports.
The economic recovery in the United States and tumbling oil prices are having a profound impact on the latest trends at this year's North American International Auto Show in Detroit. Convertibles are making a comeback, mainly due to stronger consumer spending as Americans enjoy the fruits of the strengthening economy.
But we got a lot of exciting products. So, we've got 3 new 6 Series behind us. The US market is the largest one for these cars. The convertible, around 60% of all of those that we sell are in the United States. So I think that will be a very strong product during the year.
Another popular item that has a firm place in the hearts of North American drivers is a pickup truck.
As soon as the oil prices drop, they automatically go back to what they're comfortable with. So I think as long as prices stay low, the potential for SUVs and trucks is probably better than we've seen in several years.
Despite the falling oil prices, automakers are being pressured to develop more fuel-efficient models as more stringent environment rules are being put in place around the world. That's why electric and hybrid models are also popular this year. General Motors will debut a new version of its plug-in hybrid Chevrolet Volt, the model's first update in 5 years. Korea's Hyundai Motor will also reveal a new hybrid version of its Sonata sedan. The North American International Auto Show opens to the public on Saturday and runs through January 25th at Detroit's Kobu Center. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Korea's biggest and brightest were out in force last night for the annual Korea Image Awards. Prizes were dished out to the organizations, brands, or people that best represented Korea over the past 12 months. Connie Lee reports.
So who or what did the best job in promoting Korea this past year? According to one source, it's Korean cosmetics company Amory Pacific. The company was given the Korea Image Stepping Stone Award this year at the 11th CICI Korea ceremony, hosted by the Korea Image Communication Institute. Amory Pacific was awarded for best representing Korean beauty to the world, with its cosmetics brands such as Sarasu and Laneige.
We will continue to work hard to make this world more beautiful and happier.
Another honoree was none other than Chinese actress Tang Wei, who was given the Korea Image Stepping Stone Bridge Award for her efforts in promoting Korean culture. She's best known by locals for her role in the 2010 film Late Autumn, directed by her now husband Kim Tae-yong.
This year is the year of the sheep. Born in the year of the sheep myself, I feel like getting this award is a great start to this new year.
And last but not least, the Korea Image Budding Youth Award went to Olympic gold medalist Shim Seok-hee. This 17-year-old short track sensation brought home the gold, silver, and bronze at the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympics. The annual event was attended by 600 people, including Korean actors and dignitaries alike, such as newly appointed U.S. Ambassador to Korea, Mark Lippert.
The image of Korea, it's so positive around the world, but it's also such a hardworking image. But I was just overwhelmed by the warmth and the hospitality shown by the Korean people.
Previous winners of these awards include Samsung Electronics' Galaxy smartphone, singer Psy, and UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon.
I think more than anything, Korean people make the most impact on how Korea is viewed to the world.
Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Moving over to the world of sports, a soccer star known for his looks and style off the field was often seen coming up short against his much shorter arch rival, but not anymore. Cristiano Ronaldo is fast cementing himself as one of, if not the best footballer of all time. The Real Madrid forward scooped the most prestigious award in the sport for the second year running on Monday. Our SJ Lee has more.
The ceremony started off with three footballers looking to win the biggest individual honor in the sport, with Real Madrid's Cristiano Ronaldo, Barcelona's Lionel Messi, and Bayern Munich's Manuel Neuer taking center stage. And with Thierry Henry announcing the winner of the 2014 Ballon d'Or,
the winner is Cristiano Ronaldo,
who took the top prize, claiming his second straight and his third overall. Receiving almost 38% of the votes, the 30-year-old beat out his longtime rival Lionel Messi, who received around 16% of the vote, barely beating out German goalkeeper Manuel Neuer, who finished a very close third. And while Messi won 3 straight from 2010 to 2012, it's now Ronaldo's turn to win back-to-back Ballon d'Ors. Scoring 33 goals in just 28 matches, including 26 goals in 16 league matches so far during the 2014-2015 season, Ronaldo's next goal is to win this year's La Liga championship and the Champions League with Real Madrid. SJ Lee, Arirang News.
And now the weather, it's nice to have something mild, but there's still a dry weather alert in effect in some areas, I heard.
That's right, and there have been fires prompted by the dry conditions all across the country. Let's go over to our Michelle Park at the Weather Center for details. Michelle.
Good evening, guys. Well, it's been 20 days since the dry weather advisory was put into effect over in Gangwon province, and it looks like the dry conditions will continue for a couple of more days. And we had another mild afternoon here in Korea, but after sunset, well, it turns out to be temperatures going down a bit and until 1 degree from 5 here in Seoul, and it's expected to go down even further into the evening hours. Now, the mild readings are expected to continue all throughout the week. However, rain or snow is expected to fall nationwide between Friday and Saturday. Now taking a look at the readings for tomorrow. Seoul will start off the Wednesday morning at -2 and gets up to 6 in the afternoon, while Daegu and Busan hits higher at 9 and 10 degrees. Moving over to other regions such as Jeju Island gets up to 11, while Mount Keungan dips low to 2 degrees. Well, that's all for now. I'm Michelle Park, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Michelle. We've come to the end of our newscast. Thanks again for tuning in. For our viewers in Korea, have a safe commute home. I'm Hwang Ji-hye.
And this has been Daniel Che. We wish you a good day if you're watching from another time zone. Do join us again for more at the same time tomorrow.